Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Vallabha Ya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Kund Bihari Radha Kund Bihari Radhe Jaya Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Radhe Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Aladeva Mai Subhaja Jaya Srinath Ji Jaya Bala Gopal Jaya Srinath Ji Jaya Giri Govardhan Jaya Gora Nitai Jaya Gora Nitai Jaya Gora Nitai Jaya Gora Nitai Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Guru Deva Guru Deva Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Guru Deva Hari Jai Gora Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo Jai Gora Hari Bo Jai Gora Jai Hari Rama Sankirtana ki Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritta Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiriye Nasta Prayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Hare Krishna. So welcome to our continued series on this most glorious month of Kartik. Thank you to Prabhuji and Mataji for opening your homes to all of us so that we can relish these very sweet pastimes of Krishna. These pastimes of the Supreme Lord, when we hear them, two things happen. One, it increases our attraction to how sweet the Supreme Lord is and how loving He is to all of His devotees. And by that, we can gain some inspiration to take to the process of bhakti very seriously. When we know the great value of something, then we work hard for it. Right? Our effort is measured or is in proportion to the faith we have in the reward of that effort. You know, if we know that if we had to walk 17 miles right now, Anybody's willing to do it? But if I said you walk 17 miles right now, and there's a box with $1 million there waiting for you, anybody will do it? They'll run. Because they have faith in the value of that never works, right? So when we talk about chanting the holy names, reading Srila Prabhupada's books, rendering service in the temple, sometimes our effort becomes stymied or slow because of a lack of faith in the result. So by studying these pastimes, we gain some realization of the amazing result of devotional service. So this pastime of Govardhan Lila is extremely sweet on many, many dimensions. And we learn many, many lessons. And that is the second reason to study these pastimes. Because Krishna teaches us through these pastimes. They're not just interesting stories for entertainment. They're certainly entertaining and very captivating. But they are chock full of very potent instructions. Things that we apply in our practice of bhakti. So as we discuss this pastime, we'll pull out some of the key instructions. We'll not discuss all of them in the interest of time, but we'll pull out some of the instructions that are very relevant and appropriate for us and practical for us. Okay? So we'll read this verse. It's amazing because I was not remembering which verse to read, and I opened the book to where the bookmark was, and it's this verse. Sometimes Krishna is very, very mystical. So the verse is is from the 10th canto from Srimad Bhagavatam. It is from the 24th chapter, and it's the 31st verse. I'll just read the Sanskrit and then read the translation and purport, and then we'll discuss. Krishnastvam yatamam rupam gopa vitram vanam gataha shailo asimiti bhavamburi balim adad brihad vapu. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The Prabhupada ki. Krishna then assumed an unprecedented, huge form to instill faith in the cowherd men, declaring, "I am Govardhan mountain." He ate the abundant offerings. Purport. In the 24th chapter of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Srila Prabhupada writes, when everything was complete, Krishna assumed a great transcendental form and declared to the inhabitants of Vrindavan that he was himself Govardhan Hill, in order to convince the devotees that Govardhan Hill and Krishna are identical. Then Krishna began to eat all the food offered there. The identity of Krishna and Govardhan Hill is still honored, and great devotees take rocks from Govardhan Hill and worship them, exactly as they worship the deity of Krishna in the temples. And devotees therefore collect small rocks or pebbles from Govardhan Hill and worship them at home, because this worship is good as deity worship. End quote. Now this paragraph is a purport by the disciples of Srila Prabhupada. Lord Krishna had induced the residents of Vrindavan to assume a significant risk on his behalf. He convinced them to neglect a sacrifice to what is, after all, the powerful government of the universe, and to worship a hill called Govardhan instead. The cowherd community did all this simply out of love for Krishna. And now, to convince them that their decision was correct, Lord Krishna appeared in an unprecedented, huge transcendental form and demonstrated that he himself was Govardhan. I want to read one sentence again. Lord Krishna had induced the residents of Vrindavan to assume a significant risk. So what was that risk? Hold that thought. That's what we're going to discuss. Okay? So we'll chant the invocation prayers and then discuss. Om Jnana Timidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuro Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Jadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamstra Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamsra Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sate Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Krupa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavani Paschata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So how many of you have heard the details of this Govardhan pastime, the lifting of Govardhan Hill, the Govardhan Puja? A little bit? You guys are, okay. So a few. So good. So anyways, hearing it over and over again also is very sweet. So let's first understand this Govardhan Hill. It's very, very powerful. Actually, Govardhan is originally from the spiritual world, from Goloka Vrindavan. Govardhan is present there. Yamuna is present there. All the forests of Vrindavan, they're all present in the spiritual world. And when Krishna tells Srimati Radharani, I'm going to go to the material world, she says, good luck, I'm not going. Because I won't go anywhere where there's not Vrindavan, where Yamuna is not there, where Govardhan, Radhakund, all these, I'm not. So Krishna says, no problem. I'll manifest all of them here in the material world. So one of the places that Srimati Radharani was very attracted to was Govardhan. And Govardhan has a very storied history. So when it came, how it came to Raj was not a direct descent to Raj. It was residing up in the mountainous regions, and it was there as the son of Drona, Dronachal. And there, the great Pulastya Muni from Kashi had come, and he saw the beauty of Govardhan. And he began to glorify Govardhan and saying, this is amazing and very wonderful hill. So he desired that I would like to take this hill to where he was doing his devotional service in a very spiritual place of Kasi. There, Kasi was a flat area, so he thought this hill would provide a nice ambiance for the devotional service that was taking place there. So Drona reluctantly, agreed. But Govardhan put one condition on Pulastya Muni. He said, Drona was a powerful mystic. So he could just lift this giant mountain and take it, fly, and drop it in Kasi. But Drona said, put one condition. Once you pick me up, wherever you set me down, I'll not leave from there. So Pulastya Muni said, no problem. Distance from where they were at to Kasi was not too far. No problem. So he agreed. So as Pulastya Muni is carrying Govardhan is, in his hand, and he's flying over, and Govardhan, they start to fly over Vrindavan. And there, Govardhan becomes very ecstatic, thinking and remembering the pastimes of Krishna in the forest of Vrindavan. And so Govardhan realized, I want to stay here. And so he becomes very, very heavy, extremely heavy. And in that weight, Pulastya Muni feels heavy, tired. And so he says, let me take a few minutes rest. So he descends down in Vraj and puts Govardhan down, takes a little bit of rest, and then he goes to pick up, forgetting what Govardhan had told him, that once you set me down, I'll not move. And his would not budge. And thus Govardhan finally made its descent into Vrindavan, into Vraj. And here it has been residing. And it is called, another name for Govardhan we call Giriraj. It is the Raj, the king of hills. It is not just a hill. It is the Giriraj, king of hills. And it was very, very sweet. And so this Govardhan hill is explained in the Shri Upadeshamrita. Its glories of how auspicious Govardhan is. Anybody has been to Govardhan? A few of you? So you all are very fortunate. The rest of us will go there today in meditation. And then we'll pray to go there all together once and do Govardhan Parikrama. But Govardhan is a very auspicious. It says that we know Vaikuntha is the spiritual world, right? Vaikuntha Lok, it is a place of no misery, no birth, no old age, no disease, no death, no anxiety, fear, stress, nothing. Right? What could be better? Anything? So in the Nectar of Instruction, the Sri Upadeshamrita explained that even better than Vaikuntha is this district of Mathura. Where? On this earthly planet. So there is a place on the earthly planet that is even superior to Vaikuntha Lok. This is how high this, because this Vrindavan in the material world is non-different from the Vrindavan in the spiritual world. We may perceive differences, but it is non-different. So within this large area, the best area is the 12 forests of Vrindavan. Right? So we have Vaikuntha, then this district of Mathura, within Mathura, the 12 forests of Vrindavan. And within the 12 forests of Vrindavan, what is the most auspicious place? It is Govardhan, Giriraj. Where Govardhan resides, this is the most potent place for spiritual progress. And of course, within Govardhan, where is the most potent place? It is Radhakund, which are the eyes of Govardhan. Radhakund and Shamkund, they are the eyes of Govardhan. So this is the most powerful place in the whole creation, spiritual world and material world, to practice devotional service. Now who wants to go to Govardhan? Very, very powerful place. So this Govardhan is the central theme of this pastime. But now we have some understanding. This is not some ordinary mountain. It is very, very auspicious and very, very powerful. So now let's understand how this Govardhan came to be lifted by Krishna. Why he lifted it. Right? What was his intent and purpose? Thank you. So, Krishna had just blessed the wives of the Brahmanas, the Dvija Patnis, who were desiring to serve Krishna. And the Brahmanas were not so intelligent as their wives, which is often the case. Sorry, Prabhus. That's just a reality. And so the wives were blessed with the great fortune of serving Krishna and Balaram. And so this pastime is just wrapped up. And Krishna and Balaram are just kind of moving around in the forest. And they happen upon Nanda Maharaj and the elderly cowherd men. And there, they are preparing for some sacrifice, some yajna. So normally we know when young boys, they see parents doing something, particularly father, something new, what happens? What do they start doing? Inquire. Do they inquire passively or actively? Actively. What are we doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? So Krishna began to ask his father, Father, what is the purpose of this sacrifice? Where is it prescribed that we should do this sacrifice? What is the intent? What is the process? So many questions he's firing off the Nanda Maharaj. Now we know. Does Krishna not know what sacrifice Nanda Maharaj is doing? He is the all-knowing, supreme personality of Godhead. But he is playing in the role as son. So he inquires from father. Now initially Nanda Maharaj remains silent and doesn't answer. And our acharyas comment on different reasons. Superficially, oh, this boy won't understand, I can't really tell. So we just kind of ignore, right? We see, will child get distracted by something else and move on, right? That's the plan. So, like this, but Krishna became persistent. And Krishna began to say, Father, it's not good to have secrets between friends. Loved ones don't keep secrets. And like this, he drops a lot of philosophy on Nanda Maharaj to push him to explain what he's doing. So he begins to explain. Nanda Maharaj says, okay, this boy is not going to relent. So let me tell him what we're doing. We are doing Indra Puja. And we're doing Indra Puja because we are Vaishyas. We are farmers. We are cow protectors. And so without rain, what is the source of our prosperity? Without rain, how we'll grow foodstuffs. We know you can have all the wealth and diamonds and jewels in the world, but if you don't have food, is there any value in that wealth? No. So Nanda Maharaj is explaining to Krishna that because we are dependent on the rains, and Lord Indra is providing the rains, we are offering these things that are actually products of the rain that he has given, right? The crops that have grown, we are offering back to him. And in that way, we will enjoy prosperity and make advancement in, enjoyment, in religiosity, and spirituality. So, like this, he explained. And so, now Krishna embarks upon a mission to stop this Indra Puja. Now we might wonder why we would stop this Indra Puja. But Krishna first asks Nanda Maharaj one question. It's a very important question. He says, do you know why you are doing this ritual, this yajna? Is it some family tradition, he asks? Or is it enjoined in Shastra? What is the purpose behind? And Srila Prabhupada comments in Krishna book that, it is very important that we understand the purpose behind our processes. Because otherwise, those rituals become very mechanical and they don't yield the full value that we need. So by understanding the purpose behind them, then we can actually perform them with great faith. Otherwise, we call it going through the motions. And actually, a lot of spirituality we see practice is such, where we do these different things, but we actually haven't fully understood why, except for, I don't know, people before me did it, and so I'm carrying on the tradition. So Krishna is asking Nanda Maharaj, very importantly, to instruct to us that we should become very knowledgeable about why we are doing these different rituals. So he is going to stop the Indra Puja. Now, one may ask, why he is stopping the Indra Puja? So he is stopping the Indra Puja for two very important reasons. Srila Prabhupada explains. One, it is out of his great compassion to Lord Indra. Now we can say, wait a minute. He tells Nanda Baba, you stop this Indra Puja, and instead you worship Govardhan Hill. Now if you're Lord Indra and you're watching this, you're thinking, wait a minute. These cowherd men are going to take all these wonderful rasgullas and sabjis and puris, paneer sabjis, nice pakoras, samosas, rasgullas, pizza, samosa, anything I missed? All these offerings, And they're going to offer a pile of rocks? Are you crazy? Oh, Lord. You can imagine what's starting to turn, but Krishna says, we are actually maintained by Govardhan. Govardhan, when the rain falls, the waters become enriched with minerals and then flow into our fields. And from that, crops are growing. Our cows are going and grazing on Govardhan and eating the grasses. And from that grass, they're producing such fine milk. We're using the flowers that are growing on Govardhan to perform our various worship and puja. So we should actually go and worship Govardhan and not Lord Indra. Actually, Krishna explains his purpose of defeating this Indra puja by speaking some atheistic philosophy, this karma mimamsa philosophy, which I won't get into the details. But Krishna is basically saying, your karma alone will dictate whether you get rain or not, so you don't need to worship any personality. Just do good. This is a very atheistic philosophy, not recognizing that who is in charge of this system of karma? God Himself. It is not just a neutral system. So, when Krishna is instructing Nanda Maharaj this way, of course Lord Indra is becoming upset because his yajna, his offering is being interrupted. Now, why Krishna, coming back to this, why Krishna is doing this? Because he loves Lord Indra very much. Now you say, wait a minute, then maybe I don't want Krishna to love me because he's going to take something from me. Why he's doing this? Well, Krishna understood that Lord Indra had become proud in his position as the governor of rain. He'd become proud from his position in power. And Krishna knows that what happens when we become prideful? We say pride comes before the fall. Because pride puts us in illusion. We think something that is not reality. When I'm operating, which is not in reality, nothing good happens. Nothing good happens. So Krishna, being very kind, is breaking Lord Indra's pride, so that he can remain a very loving servant in his position as governor of the rain. Because if he doesn't, he'll ultimately fall from that position. And so, sometimes when Krishna is kind to us, it also means that he's giving us some correction. Just like when a father has to correct a child, that correction is out of love. Right? Father doesn't correct the neighbor's child, but a father will correct his own child. But that correction is out of love. So Krishna is trying to defeat the pride of Lord Indra. And he's instructing to us that that pride we must vanquish from our consciousness. Now, the second reason Krishna is stopping the Indra Puja, Srila Prabhupada comments right in the beginning of this pastime in Krishna book. He explains that one must understand with unequivocal faith that when one serves Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by that process one is actually worshipping not only Lord Indra but all of the devatas. That by the single process of devotional service, one then fully satisfies all of the demigods. And this is actually the proper way. He says this in the Bhagavad Gita in the 7th and 9th chapters. He says it in a very black and white terms. But here, he is showing it to us. And he's telling Nanda Baba that you already are worshipping me through your service, but not knowing I'm the Lord. But now you worship Govardhan. And as we read in this purport, Govardhan is none different than Krishna. And because there are 33 million devatas, if we worship Lord Indra, but we don't worship the other devatas, what's going to happen? There'll always be envy. Why not me? And actually, we are indebted to all of the devatas for the different things that they are providing for our maintenance. So how to properly worship them is explained in the Vishnu Puran, in other parts of our Shastra. And it's compared to watering the root of a tree. If you have a giant banyan tree with thousands and thousands of branches, how do you nourish those branches? Do you water each individual branch? No. You water the root. And when you water the root, the water is distributed to each and every one of the branches. This is the process of devotion. That when we serve the root cause of everything, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then all of the different rights and duties and responsibilities we have are satisfied. By the singular process, it is not by worshiping Krishna we are abandoning and neglecting all these other responsibilities. No, quite conversely. Instead of picking 1 or 2 or 5 or 10, by worshiping Krishna, all of the different duties and responsibilities we have are satisfied. Just as by watering the one root of the tree, each and every branch. Do you have to tell the root, okay, go this way, go that way to water? No, it happens automatically. And this is the Vedic system. So the second reason why Krishna stopped this Indra Puja. First reason, pride. Second reason, show us the proper way of worship. So he told Nanda Maharaj, you worship Govardhan. And he gave very specific instructions. And what makes this Govardhan Puja so powerful, it is one of the few pujas that Krishna himself directed, inaugurated, and did himself with his mother, father, brother, and all of his associates. So we know how dear it is. And he described exactly what to do. And he said, you empty the storerooms of Bhoga, and you make giant amounts of offerings. Huge lakes of dals and sabjis and pakoras and all wonderful offerings. And you offer it to the Govardhan hill. He said, you invite the brahmanas and have them recite the mantras and then give to them in charity, cows and other wonderful items. You bring the cows and feed them nice grasses. And he said, then after feeding the brahmanas, you have to feed also all the living entities. You feed even the dog eaters. Krishna says, every living entity is my part and parcel. And one should have compassion and love for all. So while Krishna is known as Go Brahmana Hita, the protector of the cows and brahmanas, he says, no, we must serve everybody. In this way, he instructed exactly what to do. Then he said, after you're done, then you circumambulate the brahmanas and the cows and the sacrificial fire. And then you go on parikrama of Govardhan. And so the residents of Vrindavan followed. Right? They know Krishna, okay, persistent. They had faith, even though how old Krishna was at this time? 7 years old. But they knew. So they followed. And this elaborate festival, everybody dressed up in their finest clothes. And the cows and brahmanas were in front. And then all the residents of Vrindavan followed. The ladies were in the bullock carts. And like this, they went around parikrama. And they were singing the glories of Krishna. Doing Krishna Katha. And when they came back to the place where they had started, where all the offerings were there, now Krishna wanted to give proof. Because remember I said, Lord Krishna had induced the residents of Vrindavan to assume a significant risk. The risk was they had given up the Indra Puja. And what if that was incorrect? So he wanted to prove that no, what they did was the perfect action. So Krishna then assumes the form of Govardhan Hill and begins to eat all of the offerings. And the residents become ecstatic. Oh, Govardhan has come and Krishna's and eating the offerings. And then Krishna is the first. He's separate. He's standing here as a 7-year-old boy. He's also expanded as Govardhan. So he himself offers obeisances. And all the residents of Vrindavan follow and offer obeisances. Of course, Krishna is offering obeisances to himself. But in this way, we understand that Govardhan is non-different from Krishna himself. And that is why you'll see on many altars the Giriraj stones. And we worship it as Krishna. It's not stone. It actually is the Supreme Lord. So this festival took place. Very joyous. Everybody enjoyed, had fun. And you can see, how many of you came for Govardhan Puja on Tuesday? And how many of you walked around, did parikrama around 4 times? That 4 times parikrama around Govardhan Anakut is non-different than having done the 22-kilometer parikrama around Govardhan in Vrindavan. This is the potency. So this Anakut still goes on today in Vrindavan. Hundreds of thousands of people will do parikrama on this day. It's a mad rush. Very sweet. And people, all the Brajbasis come very dressed up. Very festive occasion. And all around the world, these large Anakuts take place. And Krishna instructed for this purpose. So now, everybody dispersed and went back home. And everybody was happy except for Lord Indra. Lord Indra became very upset. And he started to think that these wise elderly men, they have lost their intelligence, he says. They have succumbed to this Krishna. He calls Krishna this ordinary human being. Then he says, this talkative young child. And he says, the elderly cowherd boys have become filled with pride because they are enjoying the opulence of their agricultural activities. Many cows, many milk products, many great grains. They become prideful. This is Lord Indra. Very instructive point here. Who is full of pride? Indra. And what was Indra saying? What we see as faults in others is only a reflection of what exists in our heart. Actually, we cannot see anything in others that does not exist first in our heart. So because Lord Indra was full of pride, he was seeing Nanda Maharaj and all of the elders as being full of pride. And so we should be very careful when we see some, unenviable characteristics. We should look then into our heart and find out where they are. Maybe they're very deeply hidden. And through good devotional service, we can eliminate them. But we should understand that. And in the purports, it's explained that when there is pride in the heart, one is always unsettled. Why? Because when there is pride, there is expectations. And when those expectations are not met, what happens? We become disturbed. And we see it. We see we're complaining about this situation, this person's doing this, and this conflict, and this. And why? Because there's pride in our heart, and we have some expectation, and it's not being met. So we'll find faults in circumstances. So this is the condition. One cannot be peaceful and at equilibrium when there's pride in the heart. And for this, Krishna is working to eliminate the pride in Lord Indra's heart. Again, it is out of love and compassion. So we should pray to Krishna. Often we don't pray like that. We should pray to Krishna. Please remove my pride. But note, sometimes it's a little painful, a little difficult, maybe a lot, but it is for our benefit. Sometimes we go to the doctor and they have to give a painful injection, but it's for our benefit. So this pride was there in Lord Indra, and he became very upset. And what happens when we are full of pride? We make great decisions? No. We make very bad decisions. Our intelligence becomes lost. So much so, we do things that are unthinkable, unimaginable. But at that time, they think like the right thing to do. And this is the danger of pride. It completely shatters our intelligence. And so what Lord Indra wanted to do? He wanted to kill the residents of Vrindavan. He wanted to destroy Vrindavan. Who is Lord Indra's master? How do we know that? Who says? Krishna says. But in 2 chapters, we'll see Lord Indra says, how foolish I was to confuse my master, you, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he laments this action he's about to take. He's thinking, how foolish I was. He calls himself fool number 1. That you, my Lord, are giving me so much, and I try to destroy your most beloved Vrindavan, the cows, the cowherd men and women, everything. So this is the danger of pride. It leads to bad decisions. So Lord Indra called his Samvartaka clouds. We had beautiful Samvartaka clouds during our Govardhan Puja. Anybody saw those? All thanks to Nirmala Prema Mataji and the huge team who put together an amazing thing. And you even saw Lord Indra this time. That was a new addition. Flying, right? On Airavata. Coming. Because when Lord Indra told Samvartaka clouds are used when the universe is going to be destroyed. There's an inundation of water. These clouds come and flood the whole universe and destruction. So there's a very specific purpose. So when they were called by Lord Indra to shower rains, naturally they said, we can't do that. But Lord Indra pushed and said, don't worry, I'm coming on Airavata. I'll be there. And so with that, they gained some confidence to follow the orders of their master. And so they began to shower torrential rains. Rain was falling in thick, heavy columns. Big hail, wind, whistling so loud. Extremely fearful situation. And the rain was falling at such a rapid rate that you could not tell highland from lowland. Water was rising. The cows became very fearful. They're trying to protect the calves underneath their bodies. The cowherd men and women, they became fearful in a very distressed condition. And so what did they do? Call 911? They went back to their 7-year-old friend. Their only source of savior. Anytime there was a calamity, anytime there was any difficulty, their comfort was Krishna. And so they went to Krishna. And amazingly, we'll talk a little bit about this tomorrow during Gopashtami. Very sweetly. The cowherd men and women, when they went to Krishna, they said, please save the cows. They didn't say, please save us. They said, please save the cows. And also then you can save us. You can see how important they knew the cows were to Krishna. So, the rains were coming, and this, in a great sense of fear, they went to Krishna. Now, Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur comments, why Krishna allowed the residents of Vrindavan to go fear? I just said Vaikuntha, right? No stress, no fear, no anxiety. But wait a minute, they're in anxiety. They're in fear. How he could allow such a thing to his beloved associates? What is the purpose of that? So Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur comments that actually this enhances their rasa. And he gives an example how. You know, when you are really, really hungry, then the pleasure of eating is intensified. That hunger pain increases the pleasure of eating. So like that, when the residents of Vrindavan, when they enter into experience some of these feelings of calamity, it only intensifies their experience of love when they reach the lotus feet of Krishna as their only shelter. Now the residents of Vrindavan show us a very important thing, that when we have any calamity, regardless of what it is, did they do their math and think, wait a minute, how is a 7-year-old boy going to stop this giant rain? How is it? No. They did not think. They knew with faith, just go to Krishna. He is the source of all protection. He is Surdam Sarva Bhutanam, Nyakpam Nam Shantim Richati. If we remember, Krishna is our ever well-wisher, then and only then we'll find peace in this world. So they went, and Krishna said, okay, no problem. And so he was standing on the porch of his house, and it's raining. And he walks to Govardhan. Now our acharyas again comment here, that as he's walking to Govardhan, not one drop of rain was able to fall on his turban or any of his clothes. So where he was walking, through the Yoga Maya potency, the rain was shielded. Let me ask you a question then. Why he went and then had to lift Govardhan? He could have just put a shield over all of Vrindavan, and the clouds would have poured, but no rain would have come. He could have simply, and Samvartaka would have went flying. He's already destroyed the giant Putana and Tirnarvata and Shakatasura and these great, great demons. With just one blow, he could have sent Samvartaka flying, and all the rains would have stopped. Why he did this? Our acharyas explain even, when Krishna was holding Govardhan, think about this. He's going to lift Govardhan and invite everybody underneath, right? But what was the major problem from the rain? Floods. But anybody thinks, wait a minute, how is standing under a hill going to solve flooding? It might stop the rain from hitting me, but it's not going to stop flooding. So we're going to come flooded. But what happened? Every drop that landed in Vrindavan immediately evaporated. As soon as Krishna lifted Govardhan, nothing could get flooded. So Krishna could have stopped the flooding by this potency. So why he went and lifted Govardhan? Okay, to display the strength of Govardhan. Let's see.
To bring everyone together.
Let's see. So Krishna has one desire, and that is always to satisfy the desires of his devotees. And his devotees have only one desire: to satisfy the desires of Krishna. This is, my friends, what we call a two-way street. When Krishna says, Sarva Dharma Parityaja, you abandon all varieties of religion and you surrender to me, know that Krishna is as eager to surrender everything he has to his devotees. It is a two-way street. And we know who has more to give. If we surrender everything we have, to Krishna, and Krishna surrenders everything he has to us. Who wins in that trade? Just like when child trades with father, right? Who always wins in the trade? Child always wins. We always win. But through our false ego, we think, oh, if I surrender everything to Krishna, what will happen to me? But actually, this is the path of perfection. So what Krishna was doing? So he went and lifted Govardhan. How big Govardhan was? It was 64 miles long, 40 miles wide, 16 miles tall. And he lifted. With two hands, he put on his head like the coolies do, big, strong part, like this. With his left hand. Not even left hand, left finger. Not even the finger. Actually, it's sitting on the nail of the left hand, small pinky finger, on the nail. When Srila Prabhupada first asked the devotees to draw this picture, they drew the picture with Krishna with these big bulging muscles and biceps, And Prabhupada said, "You fools, he's 7 years old. He is not lifting with his muscles. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead." He didn't say you fool. He was speaking in jest. But the point was that Krishna is not lifting by our material calculations. Ananta Shesha is holding entire universes on his head. And how it feels on his head? Well, like when a piece of dust lands on your head, do you notice it? Like that, he's holding millions of universes. And that's an expansion of Krishna. So what is it to lift one hill? We think 40 miles long, wide. No way. It's actually small for Krishna. But he lifted like this. But our acharyas comment that how the hill in Vrindavan could accommodate all of the population of Vraj. Because not just the humans came, all the animals came too. But because Giriraj was being lifted by Krishna, he went into ecstasy and expanded and became bigger and bigger. And thus all of the residents, all of the cows, bulls, horses, deers, peacocks, everyone found ample space within Govardhan. And this is the reciprocate. So now everybody is standing underneath this Govardhan hill. There in itself is faith. If I hold a rock like this, just this big, will you walk underneath it? No. They're standing underneath a giant mountain being balanced on the fingernail of Krishna. But Krishna says, don't worry, it won't slip from my hand. So they say, okay, Krishna said so. This is faith in Krishna. We have so many doubts. What about this? What about that? We do so much. Take Krishna's words as absolute truth. This is the reality. Our own minds will not be able to process, but take with faith. So the residents of Vrindavan, they just rushed under Govardhan. Now I was explaining why he had to lift Govardhan. Because he could have just eradicated the floods. He could have just sent some vertica flying. He could have called Ananta Shesh and would have brought his hoods and created a giant umbrella. So many ways he could have stopped the rains. Why he went through the trouble of lifting Govardhan? Because in Vrindavan, Krishna's pastimes are broken up into 8 parts. And during these 8 parts, different associates of Vrindavan are getting to associate with Krishna and be with Krishna. But they all are having one desire. What is that desire? Why I have to stop? I want to be with Krishna all day long. Right? Mother Yashoda is dressing Krishna, bathing him in the morning, and she's taking her sweet old time. Dressing, redressing, dressing again. Why? Just to prolong the time she gets with her beloved Krishna. Meanwhile, the cowherd boys are knocking on their door. Come on, Krishna is late. We have to go to the forest. Because they know they also have a deadline. They have to be back by 5 o'clock. So it's cutting into their time. And as they are enjoying by 4 o'clock, 4:30, oh, we have to now be separated from Krishna. And like this, everybody is trading off Krishna. And they're all desiring, I want to see Krishna all day long. So to actually reciprocate with this desire, Krishna lifted Govardhan. He brought all of them under. And for 7 days, they all had uninterrupted association with Krishna. Their desire fulfilled. So to fulfill desire of Krishna, that is why he lifted Govardhan. Externally we think to protect from the floods. But that could have been done through so many means. It was actually to fulfill this desire. And what happened? Krishna, you can imagine if Krishna is in the middle, he's standing on a platform and he's holding. And everybody has come under Govardhan, then some people will be in the front, some people will be in the sides, some people will be in the back, right? Some people will be right in the front row, some will be way in the far back. You know, like in these sessions, the front row is always open and the back is filled. But in this type of scenario, everybody wants to be in the front, right? Nobody wants to be in the back. But what happened? Everybody was seeing Krishna straight face to face in the front row. Now, how is that possible? They all had a front row seat to see Krishna. Millions of residents of Vrindavan and cows and peacocks and everyone was seeing Krishna. Because Krishna is unlimited in his reciprocation. He reciprocates with each of us on a personal level. And when he reciprocates with you, it doesn't take away reciprocation with you. And when with you, it doesn't take like this. You know, when we have 3 or 4 friends, we can split our time equally amongst them. But if I give more time to one, it means I have less for another. But with Krishna, he gives himself fully to 1 and 2 and 3 and like this to every, because he's unlimited. And the residents of Vrindavan experienced this under Govardhan Hill. They were all getting this very intimate, personal association with the Lord. And what happened to them? They were just drinking the nectarian beauty of Krishna. 7 days, they didn't move. They didn't feel thirsty. No, tired. Nothing. They couldn't stop. And each moment they were seeing Krishna, it was more beautiful and more satisfying than the prior moment. It was getting more and more. And they just were enraptured. And like 7 days passed like a few moments. They could not stop drinking the beauty of the Lord with their eyes. This is how attractive Krishna is. And then, ultimately, Lord Indra realized, I've made a big mistake. He's showering rains, and it's explained, there are many plants and trees and flowers on Govardhan. Not even a single petal from a flower. How delicate is a petal from a flower? You know, you lift it and 2 petals fall, right? Not even a single petal was dislodged from its flower, despite the heavy rains and winds. It shows nothing can trump the will of Krishna. Not even a blade of grass can move in the wind without the sanction of the Lord. And so, Lord Indra recognized, okay, this is not working. And he realized, I've made a big whoopsie, big mistake. He withdrew Samvartaka, and Krishna saw, okay, the clouds have dissipated, the sun is now out, the land is dry, everyone can now go home. They're all disappointed, of course, because their experience was shunned. But one other reason why Krishna chose Govardhan to lift. He could have chose something else. But why he picked Govardhan? Because actually, when Hanumanji they were building the bridge to Lanka, they were bringing big rocks and big boulders. And he had come all the way up to Vraj. And when he saw Govardhan, he said, wow, this is a giant, this will serve as a great place. And Giriraj became ecstatic. that, I will receive the feet of Lord Ram. And so he became ecstatic. And Hanumanji was just about to pick up, and his phone rang. WhatsApp message came. Bridge is done. Completed. And so there was no need for Giriraj. And Giriraj became so saddened and upset, saying, I had this opportunity. So Krishna promised Giriraj. He says, don't worry. When I come in my Vrindavan Lila, I will lift you and you can be used in service. And so for this reason, he also fulfilled the desire of Giriraj. So this is the sweet pastime. So then the residents go home, and then Lord Indra realizes his mistake. And Krishna then meets Lord Indra. And Krishna meets Lord Indra in a very private place. Right at the base of Govardhan. They're right there. If you go to Govind Kund, that is the place, right where Madhavendra Puri's Bhajan Kutir is. That is the place where they met. And he meets him in a private place. Why? Because Lord Indra has made a big mistake. And he did not want to embarrass Lord Indra in front of the residents of Vrindavan. Krishna, though he was trying to correct and purify Lord Indra out of love, he did not want to humiliate him. And so he met with him in a very private place. And there Lord Indra bows his golden ornamented head, with the helmet at the feet of Krishna. And a whole chapter of very beautiful prayers where he describes how he became so foolish because of his pride, how he forgot, and he explains who Krishna is, that I confused you, a 7-year-old boy, forgetting you are the supreme personality of Godhead. You are the supreme controller. You are the source of everything. And he goes through exquisite presentation of who Krishna is. And then he begs for forgiveness. And of course, Krishna, being very forgiving, forgives Lord Indra and explains that you be careful. Do not succumb to pride, because it is not good for you. And I stopped this yajna for your benefit, for your purification. And Lord Indra became very grateful. And this is how we should always also become. When our pride gets smashed, yes, it's painful, it hurts, but we should be very grateful. We should be very happy, because that is what removes an obstacle in our path of devotional service. So this Govardhan pastime, just to now summarize quickly, we learn many lessons. Right? One, that pride is very dangerous for us. We make very bad decisions. We are always going to be unsettled. And we'll see in others' pride when pride exists within ourselves. We know by doing Krishna conscious devotional service, it is the all-in-one process. It is actually the only way to appropriately fulfill all of our responsibilities. And when you water the root of the tree, no branch is left unnourished. When we worship Supreme Lord, that is why he says, Sarva Dharma Parityaja. You abandon, Arjuna, all varieties of religion and surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all of your sinful reactions. Ma Suchaha, do not fear. This is the means of actually performing our responsibilities. Then we learned the glories of Govardhan Puja and how Krishna is Govardhan is non-different from Krishna himself. And we also saw how Krishna reciprocates with his devotees. How he's always living to simply fulfill the desires of his devotees. And how his devotees, when in the midst of Krishna, no disturbance could get in the way of their love for Krishna. And we saw Who is the only source of our protection and shelter? He is the only infallible source. So these are some of the many important lessons. This pastime has much more detail. We've kind of covered it at a high level, but this pastime is very, very important and instructive for us, and also very sweet. And so I pray we all can go to Govardhan tomorrow and go for parikrama. You never know. You pray hard enough, Krishna can do anything. But at least desire, and someday we'll all go and have parikrama, offer obeisances, as Krishna himself did, Giriraj, and enjoy the process of devotional service. Thank you very much. Giriraj Maharaj ki jai, Govardhan Puja ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda. Any questions, comments, discussion? I don't know what time it is, but 8:15? Oh, okay, so it did not take too long. 1 hour. Questions? Huh? How does one get to know they have pride? Well, that's a great question, right? I need to, if I'm sick, I want symptoms. What are the symptoms that I can use to diagnose my pride? So there are several. As I said, if we are seeing pride in others, that's the telltale sign. That's first. If we start, always this person has pride, this person has pride, we should then, when you point at somebody, right? 3 fingers are pointing to you, 1 to that person. So you have 3 times as much. That is first. There are some other symptoms. When we are corrected, we'll sometimes say, oh, thank you, Mataji, thank you, Prabhuji, oh, I'm so grateful. That is great. But actually, what is the sentiment in the heart? When there is pain, that is a sign of pride. Just like if I have an infection here, if I press on it, there will be some pain, right? That's a sign there's an infection there. So when there's pain in the heart, when we are corrected, that is pride. That is the evidence that there's pride there. Right? When we are unsettled, that, I want this to happen and it didn't happen, and we become frustrated. That is pride. What is the pride? I am the doer. I am the controller. Not recognizing a blade of grass in the wind does not move without the sanction of Krishna. If Krishna did not want that to happen, it wouldn't have happened. Pride. When I engage, all conflict ultimately that exists is due to pride and ego. Humility is the ultimate UN peace mechanism. United Nations is trying to create peace, but only through a spiritually inclined consciousness filled with humility can peace really happen. So these are some symptoms that we have pride. And we should know it's there. Sometimes it's buried deep. But it's okay. Own it and beg to Krishna. Krishna, please remove my pride. It might hurt, but that's a good hurt. Because it's our path to recovery, a path to purification. So that is, it's very important. That's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Tunadapi sunichena taronapi shihishna mani namanadena kirtaneya sadahari. To be able to really chant the holy names of the Lord constantly, one must be very humble. How humble? More humble than a blade of grass. When you step on a blade of grass, does it protest? No. It falls over, and then what does it do? It stands back up and awaits the next person to. More tolerant than a tree. If you kick a tree, will it still give you shade? Yeah. If you kick a tree, will it give you fruit? If you yell at the tree, will it allow you to cut its limb and use it for fire to heat yourself? Try to be tolerant like a tree. When we don't have tolerance, that's pride. That's pride. We have expectations of perfection on others, except for ourselves. Whatever expectations we have on others, we should first look in the mirror and hold upon ourselves. Amanina manadena means I should offer respects to all. If I cannot respect everybody, that is pride. Oh, this person's not worthy of my respect. This person's not. That's pride. Amanina manadena, all, everyone. And I should not expect respect from anybody. My respect to one is not because they are respecting me. No. Offer respect to all and expect none from everybody. This is humility or lack of pride. That is how. And how to become free of pride. So that is how we recognize it. How to become free of pride? Very good chanting. By chanting the holy names very sincerely, we can become free of pride. That is very important, because without it, we are doomed. We are guaranteed to fall. And that is why Krishna, very cleverly, right? Krishna could have, see how skillfully he broke Indra's pride? He didn't say one word to Lord Indra. He could have told Nanda Maharaj, stop this Indra puja, he has become full of pride. He didn't embarrass him. It's how clever Krishna was. Sometimes people ask, why he preached karma mimamsa philosophy, atheistic philosophy, right? Because if Krishna would have said to Nanda Maharaj, you worship me, I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? Then Lord Indra would have remembered that and probably relented. But then he would have forgotten again. So what Krishna did, he gave another reason, an atheistic reason, because he knew that would bring out Lord Indra's wrath, which would ultimately allow him to purify from his pride. Krishna was very clever. So he'll find clever ways also to eliminate our pride. And we should embrace it. Embrace it as the greatest blessing from the Lord, however painful it might be. Okay?
But Guruji, in the physical world where we stay, doesn't pride or ego in some ratio required for a physical development of a person? Because this is a spiritual world. Okay, in that case, when we interact with God, it's a different nature. But with physical world, some ratio of pride and ego should define a person.
So the question is, don't we need pride and ego to be successful in the material world? Understanding spiritually it's successful, but to be in the material world, right? It's a very good question. What's interesting, if you study leadership, if you study leadership theory, you find now an amazing convergence of our scriptural injunctions in this. So, I teach at University of Michigan in the business school. So I teach leadership and I teach business management there. And I'm always shocked that when I read some of these books, these business books and principles, it's all coming from Srimad Bhagavatam. If you read probably one of the most influential books that have been written in the last 20 years called Good to Great. Anybody has read this? Good to Great? It is one of the most influential books about how to develop greatness and how companies become great. And Jim Collins is a very famous author who's written this book. And he writes about leadership there. And he writes about different levels of leadership. And then he describes the top level of leadership, level 5 leadership. And you know what he says is the most important principle in level 5 leadership? Humility. Humility. So humility is not a spiritual principle, it is a universal principle. The best leaders in the world, we often think the best leaders are the ones who get out of my way and charge to the top. But actually, Jim Collins has studied, thousands of companies and leaders and understood actually the ones that really stay at the top are the humble leaders. And the best type of leadership, you know what they say? Servant leaders. What is bhakti? Devotional service. Servant leaders. Those who lead by example. That's what an acharya is. One who leads by example. One who themselves are rendering service. So these principles. So what happens is we should not confuse humility with weakness. We should not confuse humility with low self-esteem. We should not confuse humility with this what's the best word I'm trying to take? This negative outlook. No, humility is a source of strength. It's easy to be prideful. It actually takes a more stronger person to carry themselves with humility. It takes a stronger inner confidence to know I don't need to demonstrate my strength I'm going to demonstrate it through my qualities and character. So actually, you'll see that these are the best characteristics to propel one further in material life as well. And that is the beauty of Krishna consciousness. What we practice in Krishna consciousness will enrich our spiritual life to no end. But along the way, it will always also enrich our material existence. They are not two opposing forces. They're actually tightly interrelated. When you become more Krishna conscious, your sense of stress and mind control and clarity becomes enhanced, which, guess what? Makes you a better employee, makes you a better husband or wife, makes you a better neighbor, makes you a better friend. All these material also becomes enhanced. It's not the purpose, but it is a byproduct. So none of these principles have a positive spiritual engagement, but a negative material. So that is just picking one, and then we could talk about all of them and give a whole seminar on these principles that are expounded in all these leading business books. And they come right from Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay? Again, humility is not weakness. It's actually strength. Remember, Arjuna is fighting a battle and conquering the greatest warrior of all time, fighting with humility, but very vigorously. Any other questions or comments?
Those 7 days, Prabhu, like they were actually in Goloka Vrindavan, not in Bhuloka Vrindavan. So because they didn't have any hunger or any sense feelings or anything, they just saw the Krishna. By seeing Krishna himself, they all felt themselves in all senses, all organs.
But what is the distinction between Bhumi Vrindavan and Golok Vrindavan?
I'm saying that
No, what is the distinction?
So, yeah.
Big fat zero. There is no difference. Yes, they were in Goloka. They were in Bhumi Vrindavan. There's no difference. No difference. In the presence of Krishna, no material condition can persist. Right? So this is how we see even great personality like, Raghunath Das Goswami was living on the most austere and renounced way, and how the material body could function. How Dhruva Maharaj could live on just air in the material world, right? On a spiritual platform. Right?
How to develop this ability? Because if I do two services, if one service goes, I think the service is someone is taken, so the pride will come there. How to develop this?
How to develop humility? Chant your rounds very nicely. Chant your rounds very nicely. Chant your rounds very nicely. There is no other formula. There is no other formula. Chant your rounds very nicely. By good, attentive, high quality chanting, because our natural position is to be humble. The soul is full of humility. All we have to do is bring it out. It is covered by our false ego. So I don't have to go find humility on Amazon and inject it into the heart. It's already here. I have to bring it out. How? Remove the covering. Cheto darpana marjanam. Cleanse the mirror of the heart. How? Sankirtanam, chanting. That is how we'll be humility. There are obviously practical things like somebody takes our service. We should understand and have faith. That's because they can do it better than I can. And it is more pleasing to Krishna. We should celebrate it. If Krishna did not want it to happen, would it happen? Then why are we lamenting? Why are we lamenting? We find all kinds of faults in people and situations and circumstances, this group, this, all this. It's our own pride. It's our own false ego. Just continue doing our service, whatever service we have. I don't have this service, great, I'll do another service. Services are amazing in the temple. The reason we feel that experience, because we think this service is better than that service. But is there any limit in services? No. But guess what? Prabhuji and Mataji are hosting us today. Right? If someone is willing to take up the service of washing the toilets, and someone else is willing up to take the service of, you get to try all the prasadam and figure out which is the best items and then distribute. Which service will all sign up for? But what do we think is most pleasing to them? The one that nobody's willing to do, we do. Everybody is ready to run to the temple and offer arti, cook for the Lord, dress the Lord. Everybody wants to do that. But who's willing to pick up the trash? Who's willing to clean up the shoe room for all the guests? When Krishna sees a devotee doing that, he thinks, wow, this devotee loves me. Because they're doing this service that nobody is eagerly waiting to do. Are we trying to please Krishna with our service, or are we trying to please ourselves? If I'm trying to please Krishna with my service, I should look at, okay, what service nobody is willing to do, let me do that one. Because this one, many people are in line, so instead of getting my elbows out to get myself forward, I should say, okay, let me do this one because nobody is there. That should be our consciousness in service. What is pleasing to Krishna? That is anyabilashita sunyam gyana kamarinavatam. That is unmotivated devotional service. And so when our service gets kicked aside, we get disrupted, we should think, oh, Krishna, thank you. I have forgotten this lesson. Because we think if I don't get this service, there's no service. There's unlimited service. Sometimes when we're cleaning, then we lament, they made it dirty again. We should celebrate. Yes, I have more service. We think, this person did. No, I have more service. Yes, ma'am.
We understand to work with our humility, a good chanting. So we know, we see that impurity is there in the heart, and we are trying to take up the good chanting. Till it reaches that destination, how do you want to take that impurity, knowledge that impurity wants to get to ourselves, and then
Own it. Own our lack of humility. Meaning, acknowledge it. Okay, it's there. And just by taking ownership of the fact that I need to work on my humility, guess what? You'll become more humble. If we deny it, this person's not humble, I'm humble, that's why we're fighting. No, if we own it, that this is there, then we'll make progress. So, as Mother D asked earlier, how do we recognize? We got to see it. What are the symptoms of it? Right? What are the symptoms of my lack of humility? Because the more I see it, the more I'll realize it. The more I realize it, the more inspired I'll be to chant to get rid of it. Right?
at the same time it gives a negative feeling.
What?
The fear. Why?
I'm not humble. It's a negative feeling?
Yeah, negative feeling.
No, why? We all have it. Okay, I'm conditioned by the material nature. It happens. It happens. It's okay. We don't have to, be embarrassed about our lack of humility. It's there. We should wear it on our badge. It takes humility. Because guess what? It's a function of interacting with the modes of nature. It happens. Right? So we don't need to feel dejected or insignificant or incapable. Oh, I'm so fallen. I don't have okay, it's there. But remember, you are friends with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You are personal friends with Him, not distant. You are one-to-one personal friends with the Supreme Lord. What is He incapable of doing? Even shattering our humility. Shattering our pride. He can do. So have faith. Okay, yes, I've got mountains and mountains and mountains way bigger than Govardhan of pride in my heart, but no problem. Why? Because Krishna, my eternal shelter, will help me get rid of it. Have faith, have confidence. It'll happen. Nothing to be embarrassed about, nothing to be shy of. It's a reality. We all have anarthas. Guess what? If we didn't, we wouldn't be here. We'd be in the spiritual world. Right? So it's okay. Don't be confident. Be confident. Rupa Goswami says, Utsaha Nishchaya Darya. That in order to make success in devotional service, you must have 6 things. I'm just quoting the first 3. Utsaha Nishchaya Darya. Utsaha, you must endeavor. You must be enthusiastic. You can't be lazy. You must be Darya, patient. Results aren't going to come overnight. You didn't become an engineer, a doctor, a lawyer, or whatever overnight. It takes time. And then, Nishchaya, confident. You should be confident. Not confident in myself that I'm going to do it. Confident that Krishna will make it happen. Confident that Krishna loves me. He will help me. And confident that this path of bhakti is the means to make it happen. So confidence is a great quality, but the right placed confidence. Confidence in what is important. So we must operate with confidence. But not confidence in my own strength. No, Krishna's mercy is there. Okay? So we shouldn't be dejected or have, we should be confident. Yes, this will happen. Just stay on the process. And Krishna will alleviate my pride. So that's the principle of devotional service. Okay?
And also like,
Yeah.
when you were saying own your impurity, like accept that. So how does that? Can you please explain? How does that? We do that. Like, how do we show it in our actions? Our actions.
Well, for example, if I own the fact that I have pride, I recognize that in my interactions with others. If I have anger, I have envy, whatever it is, I recognize, okay, I know it's present there. Right? So I'm not looking at all the other reasons. I'm saying, no, I know it's there. It's, so I acknowledge and take possession of it. It's mine. I'm not proud of it, but I'm confident it's going to go away. But when I do that, what I can do is meld my relationships and my situation, my mind, very peacefully. Right? If my mind is disturbed, maybe it's because it's envy. I see somebody else getting glorified in this. I'm having an envious situation, so now my heart and mind is disturbed. If I own that, no, that you're disturbed because of envy, guess what? All of a sudden, your mind and heart becomes pacified. Because I'm acknowledging, I am hurt because somebody else is being glorified. Wow, that's ridiculous. Right? So now I'm owning my envy as the cause of my distress. So the distresses we're experiencing, find out what's the root cause. What's my role in it? There might be some external role in my distress, right? I get it. But what is my part in it? And when I do, that distress dissipates. That's what I mean by own it. Acknowledge it. Find it. Versus be in denial. No, I don't have envy. Right? Now I'm not owning it. And it becomes hard then to rectify whatever situations I'm dealing with. Okay? Good questions. Anything else? Okay, so we'll offer Damodarastakam. Thank you. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.